Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's webinar. My name's Jackie, and today we're going to be looking at nominal codes. So quite a back to basics topic today, but looking at some of the features of nominal codes and some of the considerations that you should be making when adding nominal codes to your system. I'm joined by the team in the background who are on hand for any questions. So today we've got Abby, we've also got Tina and Michael, who are all on hand throughout today's session for any questions that you may have on today's topic, or if you've got anything else, then by all means pop those through as well. We do have a lot of attendees, however, today, so we're creeping up towards 200 of you on today's session. So I will say we will try and prioritise those on today's topic, and we will try our best to get all of your questions covered in today's session, but it might not quite be possible in the time given today, but we will try our best. With that in mind, please don't feel you need to wait till the end of the session either. If you've got a question, submit them throughout so that you don't forget, and also so it gives us time to try and answer as many as possible. So first of all, just a little bit of housekeeping. So if you can see that you've got your microphone and it's in red with a cross through it, please don't be alarmed. It just means that you can't speak directly to the team. You will just need to use the question panel for sending your questions across. And that icon to send your question over to open up that question panel looks like a speech bubble with the question mark in the middle there. You can type your questions across to the team and we'll be using that panel again to submit your question answers as well. There is a handout for today. Now today is a little bit of theory and a little bit of demo, but the bits that we are going to show you on the slides, there is a copy of those slides available, and the icon looks like the document with the folded corner, and you can download it from there. Also, if you have any issues seeing the screen, you can actually switch to full screen. That should expand on how big you can actually see today's demonstration as well. Okay, so we're going to be looking at nominal codes today. So we're going to first off start with an introduction to what the nominal ledger is. We're then going to talk to you about the nominal code types. We'll take a look at the nominal structure, which is something that's really important to consider if you're creating a new code. How to create a new nominal code, and then look at the nominal record itself and some of the features in there. And then we'll just do a quick summary before we wrap up and talk about some of the extra support and the upcoming webinars as well. Okay, so first of all, we're just going to talk about the nominal ledger itself. So what is the nominal ledger? So the nominal ledger, also termed nominal codes within your software when you're looking down the left-hand side, it is a list of all the nominal codes within your software. Now, when you're posting, every single transaction you post will need nominal codes. You'll normally assign one, sometimes depending on the transaction, 2 transactions to a nominal code. And that's taking care of the double entry bookkeeping in the background for you. But say, for example, you're just posting a simple bank receipt. When you're doing that, it will ask you what nominal code you want to assign it to. Now, these nominal codes are used for categorizing your transactions so that they can be pulled together into some of the main management reports, and namely the balance sheet and the profit and loss. And the way that these reports work and pull these codes together for you and how they are reflected on that report is all governed by the chart of accounts, which again you can find within the nominal ledger. So we'll go into those in a little bit more detail later on. Now, today's demonstration is all going to be in demonstration data. So if you do want to follow along and have a look at things while we're going through, by all means, log into your demonstration data. The login for that is manager with no password, and that will take you into a set of data that we've created that I'm going to be working in today. Now, when you go into your nominal codes option down the left-hand side, you might have one of 2 views. So there is nominal list, which is a list of every single code on a non-individual basis. But as you can see on the screen there, I actually have it in analyzer view on the screenshot there. And what that's doing is it's grouping them together based on where they fall into some of those categories. So for example, your sales, your purchases, but also things like your assets and your liabilities as well. Now, you may not know this, But nominal codes actually belong to one of three types. And you might not have come across this before because you might not have created codes. It might not be something that you've seen before, but they do fall into one of three categories. So we have bank accounts, and these are the nominal codes which are created as a bank nominal code. So they are still a nominal code. They still sit in our nominal codes list. However, they also sit within our bank module as well. So they're special codes that will sit in two of the ledgers within the software. Now we are going to show you this a little bit later on, but if you are trying to create a bank nominal code, we'd normally recommend to create that from the bank module. And that's just so that it recognises it as a bank nominal code. And I'll show you what happens later on if you don't do that, because you'll come across problems if you try to then use it as a bank nominal code, because it won't recognise it as a bank code. We also have control accounts, and control accounts are nominal codes which are used for automatic postings which occur within the software. And two of the main ones you may have come across are that of your debtors control account and your creditors control account. So when you're posting transactions and you're assigning it a nominal code, there's quite often transactions going on in the background to reflect the other side of the double entry, which again, you might not know is going on. And those automatic postings are done to what we call the control accounts. And I'll show you that in a little bit more detail on the next slide or two. And then finally, we have the final type. And this is just a plain standard nominal account. And this is all of the other codes that aren't a control account and aren't a bank account. So you'll find that a lot of your nominal codes are just the standard ones. So again, just a quick link there on the screen to an article which may help you if you want a bit more detail on those types. Just an article there on what is a nominal code. So just wanted to go into a little bit more detail around control accounts and what they are and what you can do with them. So these control accounts are normally defined when you install the software. It will create a set of control accounts for you. And most of you will probably be using the default ones, which are in use in this example today as well. Now, you can't delete a control account. So if I went into, for example, to try and delete one of these codes from here, it would tell me it can't delete them. But if I haven't posted any transactions yet to that account, I could potentially change it to a different nominal code. So say, for example, I didn't want my debtors control to be 1,100 and I had a slightly different nominal structure and I wanted to use 1,101, providing I haven't posted any transactions yet, so it'd have to be in the very early stages of using my software, I could change that. But once I've posted a transaction that impacts that nominal code as a control account, it's locked in. So that's it stuck there. Now, if you want to have a look at what control accounts you've got set up, you can do. You can have a look at these in settings and control accounts. Now, just if we take a look at the screenshot there, you'll see that most of these are the standard ones that come with the software, so they probably match up quite nicely with what you've got at the moment. Don't be alarmed if you've made any customizations. You might have one or two that are slightly different, but you might also notice that some are empty. So as you can see there, I've got exchange rate variance, doesn't have a control account at the moment. And that's because this particular data set hasn't yet activated a module called Foreign Trader. And that's because I'm probably just working in the UK at the moment. But if I was to go and activate Foreign Trader, part of that wizard would be asking me to set up that control account, at which point it would normally give me the suggested nominal code 7906, and that would populate in here. So don't be alarmed if some of them haven't been used or haven't been filled in. It's possibly just that you haven't used that feature yet. So just now I wanted to give you a really high level explanation as to what happens with these control accounts. So there's lots of automatic postings going on in the background of the software. Like I say, you've probably not taken that much notice of it, and it's completely right that the program is doing that, but I just wanted to explain what's going on with these automatic postings. So I've put on a very simple example of posting a customer invoice. So I'm in the batch invoice window and I'm just creating a customer invoice Remember, it asks you for things like the customer record, the date, and at this point it only asks me for one nominal code per line. So it's only asking me what sales nominal code is this invoice for, and in this case I've selected 4,100. But what happens when I save this is it will credit the sales code 4,100, as you can see there in green on the right hand side. But then there are two extra postings going on in the background. One to the debtors control account for the full value of the invoice to show that I've got money owed to me by a customer. And then also the sales tax needs to go into the sales tax control account for £20 as well. So there's a few things going on there in the background, and all I've done is specify one nominal code on that transaction. So that's what the control accounts are doing, and that's why you'll see your debtors control account will start to populate figures and values, even though you haven't ever specified that in a transaction. So that would cover the double entry bookkeeping all in the background for you. So I'm not going to go into that anymore. I don't want to confuse people with double entry bookkeeping and going really back to basics, because if you're not familiar with it, it's something for another day. But I just want you to know, because we do get people who want to understand the workings of the software and what it's doing in the background there. So that's your introduction, and that's your different nominal types and also your control accounts there. So next, what I want to take a look at is the nominal structure. And this is really, really important to consider if you're starting to create new nominal codes. So if you're not familiar with the nominal structure, you run the risk of ending up popping nominal codes into the wrong areas, meaning they'll be picked up on the wrong reports. So by default, your Sage software comes with a standard nominal structure, and as you can see on the table on the right hand side there, it shows you roughly where those ranges will fall from and to. So if you're looking at your data set, you'll probably see yours are very similar to that, unless you've customized yours somewhat. Now, the nominal codes are normally 4-digit codes by default within the software. And there is an article that I'm going to show you just in a moment, which details what happens if you try to introduce additional digits. So using 5-digit codes doesn't work quite in the way that you would expect it to. So we do recommend, where possible, to stick to the 4 digits structure, because 5 digits really does throw it out and doesn't read them quite as you'd expect. Now, these nominal codes, as we mentioned, although they're all separate in the list, they are grouped together for reporting purposes. And they are grouped together by that chart of accounts that I will show you in just one moment while we'll pop into the demonstration. But like I say, when you're creating a nominal code, don't just jump in head first and find the first available one. It's important to make sure that you're creating that in the right area of your software. And when I say right area of your software, I don't just mean based on our chart, I mean check this in your software, because you could have a slightly different structure in use. Okay, so we're going to pop onto the demonstration now so I can show you these reports and also a little bit around the chart of accounts. So here we are, we're in version 29. Don't be alarmed if you're not on version 29 yet. Don't worry, this is exactly the same in all other versions, but 29 is available if you want to get yourself updated. So we're in version 29, and I'm first of all just going to pop into nominal codes. And here we are in our list. And I just again want to highlight the different views that you've got. So we're in list view at the moment, which is all of them individually in numerical order. But we do have the analyzer view as well. So if you pop in and you'll see yours are looking like this, don't panic. It's very easy to change it in the top right corner using those radio buttons here. Now, my preference is list. Your preference might be analyzer. There's no right or wrong way, so do pick which one suits you best. So again, you're coming into the software, for example, and you know that you need to create a new code for sales in this example that we're going to go through today. And we know that it normally sits in the 4,000 range. It would be very easy for me to come down here and go, right, okay, sales starts here and up to 4,999. Okay, that's great. I'll just find the next available one within that range. But we still need to be careful about it going into the right subcategory as well. So first of all, just to mention, obviously we've said it covers that range 4,000 to 499. You can see there's a lot of spare codes in there. Okay, so we've left lots of space for you to create your own codes and make this really work for your business. So there's a lot of space in there for you to add your own codes. But what we also have in the software is the chart of accounts, which allows us not to just report on sales, but also subcategories of those sales as well. So I'm going to pop into the chart of accounts now to show you what I mean. So at the top, pop into chart of accounts and select the chart of accounts that your business uses. So we only have the default in the demo data, but you might have 2 or 3 in here. So make sure you use the one that your business is using for your reporting purposes. So I'm just going to have a look at this one, and I just need to highlight it and click edit to open up the chart of accounts there. Okay. So just wait for the screen to catch up there, make sure everyone can see. So in the top left corner, circling around it now, this chart of accounts is separated into the 2 main reports that are required as management reports, and that's your profit and loss, which tells you, has your business made a profit or has it made a loss and how much? And also the balance sheet. And the balance sheet report is basically saying how much your business is worth at a given point in time. So what are your assets minus your liabilities? So I'm going to focus on the profit and loss first. So the profit and loss is basically looking at my sales, my purchases, direct expenses, overheads, and taxation. But it is possible for me to configure my profit and loss to report how I want it to report. So it will report sales, but what are the subcategories of your sales? So as you can see here, I've got sales highlighted at the top, and underneath it's showing me my subcategories and what ranges they fall into. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail here because we have got a full webinar purely on chart of accounts, but I just want you to be familiar with coming in and checking where your ranges are so that you can come in and decide exactly where you need to create your code. But you can add ranges, you can change the names of these categories, you can insert ranges. So there is a lot more to this than what I'm going to show you today. So please do check out that session if you want more information on the chart of accounts itself. So I've come in and I know that I need to create, in my situation here, a sales nominal code, and I know now it needs to fall into product sales. So now again, I don't just have to make it fall within 4,000 to 4,999. I actually need to make sure it falls in the product sales range, and that's 4,000 to 4,099. So I know now that's the range that I need it to fall in, so I can go and create that code. Just going to go onto the balance sheet before we create that, because I want to just show you the other side of it. So again, with the balance sheet, that is your assets minus your liabilities. And again, you can do exactly the same. You can look at your assets and you could subcategorize those. So it might be that you've got property, machinery, you might have other tools, etc. that you need, computer equipment, etc. But if you wanted to change any of these or look at them, you can just go through the main categories like this here, and it shows you the ranges for each one. Now again, with assets and liabilities, your assets and your liabilities will include your bank nominal codes because they can be an asset or a liability as well. So just make sure that your code that you're going to create is going to fall in the right area for your reporting purposes. Okay, so I'm just going to go back into the nominal list. And it's great, some questions come through there, so please do keep your questions coming through, and we'll see if we can get those covered for you. So the code that I want to create is for another area of the country there. So we've got Sales North, Sales South, Sales Scotland, Sales Wales, and I want to create one for Sales Northern Ireland. So I'm just going to see if I can get that one created. Again, looking at all of the other sales nominal codes, it would probably make sense that it falls alongside those. So I'll be looking for the next code in that area. So I'm going to today create code 4005. Now there are a few different ways we can do this. So we can do it by highlighting one that we see all the settings for, and we want to recreate that, but just change the nominal code. So if I for example, wanted to create it just like 4,000, then if I go into new, we've got the option to duplicate here. Now, bear in mind, all of my icons at the top are grouped together under New Edit. Yours might be separated along the top, so don't be alarmed if you can just see an option for duplicate along the top. That's exactly the same feature. So there is the duplicate option, and that will give you a copy of that same nominal code with all the same details, such as the account type, etc. And you can then just duplicate the code. We also have the wizard option. Now, looking at this earlier probably makes it a little bit easier because it goes through it very easy step by step. So it just asks you for the new nominal name, what type, so it even asks you where you want it to fall. So it's going to fall into sales and into product sales. So here we're getting it really correct where it's going to pick up on those reports, and it's giving it nominal code 5,000 for me. Sorry, 4,005. And if I do have an opening balance, which you may do if you're new to the software, you may have an opening balance, then you can also opt to add an opening balance at this point in time as well. But the one I'm going to show you, this tends to be the most commonly used one. Like I say, no way is right or wrong. Then we've got the option for new, and that just gives you the blank nominal code so that you can fill in the details. So I'm just going to pop in the nominal code there, and I'm going to call it sales NI. And then once we save, it's just giving me a prompt on the other window. That falls onto our list there. Now, if I did decide actually I've made a mistake there, I want to change that name, then I can come back and change the name. I could change it to Northern Ireland if I wanted to. Then I can do that, that's no problem. So I can come and change the name. So there's a few questions there on changing names or reusing codes. If they haven't been used, then you can come and rename it and use it for something else. And as you can see there, it's all automatically assigned an account type of nominal code. Now, with regard to using a code that's not been used, be careful if it has been used back in the past. Okay, so if you have used a code, say 10 years ago, and you haven't used it for a long time, then yes, you could reuse it. Just be careful because that could potentially pull through to your report. So where possible, maybe create the new code from scratch. Otherwise, if it's got any really historic history on there, that could still pull through onto your report. So just be careful with that. So I'm just going to save those changes. And as you can see there, we've got the sales Northern Ireland code. And when I run my profit and loss, because I know that's included in the range, that would be recorded on my profit and loss report there. Just waiting for some questions to come through. There's a few great ones there coming through. So just see if there's anything we can pick up there immediately for you. Really quick question there, once you create the nominal code, will this automatically post through to the financial report or does it need activating? You don't need to activate a nominal code, but it won't necessarily be picked up until a transaction's posted to it. So there's nothing to activate it, you can create it, but certain reports won't pick up nominal codes with a zero balance. So at the moment, it's got a zero balance and zero activity, which I'm going to come to in just a moment, which means it might not be picked up on some of the reports, but immediately once I start posting transactions, I'll start to have a history of pull through onto those. So just wanted to show you something slightly different with a bank account. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll up my window slightly into the bank account range. So bank accounts typically, you're probably very familiar, bank 1200 is the default. So they normally fall in the range of around 1200 to sort of 1250. And again, if we highlight that range here, we've got a lot of nominal codes that are blank that we can work with. So I've got my bank current account, that's my main account, and then all the way down to company credit card. Now, if I just view these, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on here. I pop this across onto the bank accounts module, you can see I've actually only got 6 here at the moment. Okay, so I've got 1200 through to 1240, but there's one of them missing at the moment. And that's because if we pop back onto the nominal code screen, I have actually created one in the nominal accounts window. Okay, so it's recognizing it's a nominal code, it's falling into the bank range. However, if I try to do a bank transaction with this nominal code, it won't recognize it as a bank code yet because it's not actually in the bank window. So if you are going to create a bank nominal code, I'm going to show you the right way to do it. Then you can go into new, and I'm just going to, for example, create 1202 because we've got a gap there. So I'm going to call this bank 2, and that saves it. Click save, and you can see there we've got bank 2 in both my bank and my nominal list, both there. However, what I've done by accident is I've actually created my bank in my nominal list, and it's not a problem as long as I haven't posted anything. Okay, so I've created it just like I have a normal nominal code, and if I pop into it, you can see the account type is showing as nominal account, and what I really want it to be showing is as a bank account, so like 1200. So to do this, I can only do this if it doesn't have a balance, which it doesn't, and I haven't had any transactions through that code. But I would pop back into the bank account and create new, and I'd pop in 1201. And what it does is it recognizes that I've created that nominal code, but it's not actually a bank account. So it's asking me now if I want to convert it. So it's not a big deal if you've created it in the nominal list, but you're kind of doing the process twice. So you're giving yourself twice the work. So if you're going to create a bank account, create it from the bank window. And if I say yes to convert it to a bank account and save, close, then as you can see, that's now pulled through. So it's recognizing now it's a bank account. So that's a common mistake I have seen in the past when I was on technical support, is that making it on the wrong window and it not pulling through, but unfortunately them being in the position where they've actually posted a transaction, so then we can't convert it. So make sure if you are creating banks, it goes through there. Okay, so now I just want to actually look at the nominal code itself and some of the details on there, so you get an understanding of what information can be held in this nominal code. So there's not an awful lot to it. It's not like customers where you can have credit control details, you've got communication history. There's not a lot to the nominal codes, but there are a couple of windows in there that are very rarely used that might be valuable to you. So I'm just going to go back to my sales nominal code. I'm going to pick on Sales North. As you can see, it's got a nice balance on there. And I'm just going to go into this record. And we're just going to go through the tabs on this record for you so that you can understand what you can use these for. So first of all, the Details tab. In here, what this is showing is the details of the record, but it's also showing this year's actual figures, and that's based on the activity posted to that nominal code. If you're using standard budgeting, so not advanced budgeting, the basic budgeting method we've got on the software, then your budgets column will be entered into here. And you can enter a budget. You might want to enter a budget for, say, the whole year, touching on budgets here. And you can enter things like budgets, etc. And then what we've also got is the prior year column as well. So if you've been using it for a while, 2 or 3 years, my data doesn't go back that far, then it will also pull through your prior year values as well. So you can start to see, you know, how you're performing on previous years. So I'll save the changes there on that one. Then we have the memo column. Okay, so the memo tab. So the memo is an area where it allows me to attach items to a record. So I don't really have any examples that I've come across over technical support of sort of common examples, but it might be that you want to attach some documents to a particular nominal code. So if you wanted to attach a document, then you do have the option to add an attachment, and then you can browse for a file to attach to that nominal record. And it just might be that it's a nominal code that you may be working with a colleague, and you want to attach your documentation onto that. In the bottom, we've got the notes as well. So you can type in notes that are relevant to yourself. It might just be a little memo for yourself. So I'm just going to pop little memo on there. But to be honest, very rarely used. However, every business is different and every individual is different. So there is options for you if you feel that that would be useful for you. Then we've got the activity. So this is probably one of the key windows that people will use, because this is the activity for that particular nominal code. And what that allows us to do is see everything that's gone through that account. There's some great features in here. So if we do, for example, find something that's wrong, we do have the option to correct a transaction from within here. So for example, this invoice has come through that's incorrect, or I need to edit it, then I've got the option to edit or delete within here. So don't need to take a note of the number and then go into transactions and locate it. It can all be done within this window. So again, it's letting you do everything from the same place rather than having to navigate elsewhere. We also have the smart links. So these items here have all come from an invoice. And if I click on this little arrow, the smart link, what that does is it posts, or it pulls through the copy of the original invoice, so that I can look at the original invoice that was sent to the customer and see what else was posted on there. So those are the smart links, which are those little arrows there, and that's if they're linked to an order or to an invoice. We can also search and filter. So if I wanted to pop in a custom range, I can pop in a date range to allow me to just see a particular month or a particular period. And what that will do is it will filter down your activity just to show those transactions that are relevant. And what's great about that is you can then send the items to Excel. So if you're trying to maybe review the activity for a particular month, I can specify the month here using the custom range, which keeps opening on the other window. I can specify the month there, and then from what it brings out here, I can send it to Excel, where I can further manipulate that or filter, etc. So the activity is a very, very useful window and very, very heavily used. And then the last feature is the graph feature. So on the left-hand side. Now, if you're actually following this with your demo data or with your live data, you might come into here and think, oh, mine's blank. Now it is normally blank by default, so I've had a look around this myself. So when you go into there, it'll have nothing in. But what this allows you to do is to have a look at your performance on that particular nominal code. And as you can see there, we can look at actuals and prior year figures. Now, if you want to populate this, so you've gone into your window and you want to populate this so you can have a look, then what you need to do is go into options at the top. And what the options allows you to do is select what your report is going to show, or your graph is going to show. So by default, it normally has nothing, okay? And that's why it's blank. But pop into here, you can pop your actuals and budgets and prior year on, and you can see how you're performing. Now, if you don't have the option for budgets, it's because you're not using standard budgeting, okay? You'll be using advanced budgeting. So it's only for use when using the standard budget feature, where you filled in the budgets within here. Okay, so it's great that there's some more questions coming through there. So please do keep them coming, keep the team busy there. Just going to catch up on the slides there for you. So we're coming towards the end there. So please do just get your questions across. I'm just going to do a quick summary. Okay, so nominal codes are how we're categorizing every single transaction that we're posting within the software. And some of those codes and some of those transactions are going on in the background to those control accounts. So although we're specifying a transaction, other nominal codes may also be impacted. So remember when you're creating codes to check your chart of accounts to see where you want it to fall. And don't just base it on what you've seen today. Please do go into yours and check, because lots of businesses have their own chart of accounts that are slightly different to ours. So just make sure it's going to fall into the right area. We do have the standard list of nominal codes that come with the software, and they can be added to or amended. So as you've seen today, we've got a whole list of nominal codes that have got names that are completely irrelevant to most businesses. You can go in and rename them. You can just open up the nominal record and you can just change the name on those. The control accounts, so we mentioned those control accounts earlier. Those are the ones that are specified by the program for automatic postings. So they can't be deleted, but if they haven't been used, then you can change them to a more relevant code. And remember, if you're making a bank nominal code, just do it within the bank module. It'll make it far easier for you than having to go into the bank afterwards and then almost recreate that nominal code too. So a few questions there. Again, keep them coming. That's great. We'll have a look at those for you and see if we can get those answered for you. I'm just going to very briefly talk about the further support. My slide is slightly back to front, so I'm just going to go back one to show the extra support there. So if you've got the handout, if you've downloaded it, then these links are accessible by clicking on them. So if you haven't yet downloaded them, please do use the opportunity now to get a copy of the handout there. But the key ones there are, your help center. So logging onto your accounts and then into help and then help center, or sage.co.uk/help, and that will take you into our help center where you can type in things like nominal codes, chart of accounts, and it will bring up the articles relevant to that particular topic that you've typed in there. And then upcoming webinars. So tomorrow we're back tomorrow morning. We're changing the times up slightly just to see if the times are better for you in the morning or the afternoon, and also to accommodate payroll year end, which is going on. So tomorrow morning Michael will be back and he'll be looking at dealing with company credit cards and expenses. So if you do have to post those type of transactions and you've wondered how to do them, then please do join us tomorrow. He'll be going through that. It doesn't stop there though. We're back next week. We've got lots on next week. We've got running your year end. We're looking at company archives. We've got VAT returns. So again, there's a link in the handout, but sage.co.uk/webinars will take you to our landing page where you can log in and you can register for as many as you like. And as always, the webinars are free for you to join. But running your year end we're doing next week, so please do join us for that one as well. Okay, so we're just gonna have a quick look at the questions there, see if there's anything I can join in to help answer. I may pop myself on mute for a few moments just while we'll have a look at those. But if you are leaving us in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you on another session really soon. But like I say, we'll hopefully be back in a few minutes once we've had a look at the questions there for you. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly pop back for a second there. There's a few questions around deleting nominal codes. Now, deleting nominal codes ties in quite nicely with our theme for April, which is all around sort of tidying up your data and removing all the data there. So I'm just going to pop back onto the software for a moment, because there are things you need to consider if you're also going to delete a nominal code. So I'm just going to pop my screen on. So once you've got a transaction allocated to a nominal code, if you were to try and delete it, then it won't let you delete anything that's got any transaction history linked to it. Okay, but there are other criteria as well. So as you can see here, I've just tried to delete one, which is quite obviously not going to be deleted because it's got a huge balance on it, but I just wanted to show you the potential reasons why a nominal code might not be able to be deleted. So if you are thinking about deleting one, you need to think about the status of that nominal code. So first of all, if it has a balance, it's not going to go because it needs to make sure it's a zero balance, but also it can't have any history. So it might show as a zero balance, but if you look back at the activity, if you've got activity on there, you'll not be able to delete it. Also, it won't allow you to delete a nominal code if it's a control account. So I've mentioned that one already. But then there's three others there that maybe not familiar with because it doesn't apply to everyone. But if you're using Go Cardless for direct debit management, you can't delete the code if it's linked to that. Also, if you're using invoice payments where you're using PayPal or Stripe to take payments and that nominal code has been applied, then again you can't remove it. And also if it's a CIS account, okay, so if it's something to do with your CIS. So those are the things you should be thinking about if you're trying to delete a nominal code. If you've got a nominal code that hasn't met any of that criteria, so it hasn't got anything on it, then you can just click on delete and it will remove it from the list. But normally if you're trying to delete a code and it won't let you delete it, then it's because of one of those 6 criteria. So just check those ones out first. Now, if you do want to look at removing activity, because that tends to be the most common one, so I've brought the balance back to zero, but I've got all of this history from say 10, 15 years ago, and I've never used that code, then what you need to be doing is something called a clear audit trail. So I would thoroughly recommend that you join us on our clear audit trail session that we're going to be running in April, and then we're going to do another session on clearing nominal codes as well. So those are ones to look out for on our listing when you're checking out our future sessions. If you're wanting to do a bit of tidying up, we've got a whole heap of sessions on tidying up your data and keeping them nice and tidy there. Now, I will just pick up on another question. There's a really good question. And again, this links into our chart of accounts session, and it's what causes the message incomplete chart of accounts. Okay, so if you're in your nominal codes and in chart of accounts, you might sometimes see the word partial after your default layout of accounts. Or it might just be when you're clicking save. So say, for example, we're being in here and we click save, we might get a message to say incomplete chart of accounts. Okay, and what that means is there are codes that are maybe missing from a range. So I might have a code in my nominal ledger, but it's not covered by any of the ranges. Or some instances, it might be that I've got duplicate ranges. So actually I'm reporting on it twice. So if you do find yourself in the situation where you've got the message incomplete chart of accounts, my one tip, I'm not going to take too much away from the chart of accounts session, but my one tip would be to do a check. Okay, now mine said no errors because mine's complete, but what this will do is it will give you a document that will tell you what's wrong. Okay, so it will tell you this code is not represented in the chart, or this range is duplicated. So it will tell you what's gone wrong there. Okay, so if you're finding that, please do just run the check on your chart of accounts and it should tell you where that's gone wrong. Okay, so I think we're on top of the questions there. It looks as though we are. So we're coming up to 45. I think we've done pretty well on the timing there. So I'm just going to say thank you for the team for joining us on the questions there today. We have managed to keep on top of it despite a busy session. So thank you very much. But again, thank you to everyone for joining us. And we really do hope that you can join us on one of our upcoming sessions. one more thing to mention is payroll year end is upon us. So if you are interested in a payroll year end session all around running that payroll year end process, or you do have a colleague that is doing that, then again, you can find that on sage.co.uk/PYE, and we've got daily webinars to help you or your colleagues through that too. But for now, that's all for us today. So thank you very much, and I hope we may see you tomorrow. Thanks very much there. Take care, everyone.